You know that magical moment when you realize the business trips your husband kept taking weren't actually about closing deals, but about opening his legs for someone else? Yeah, December 20th, 2024 was that day for me. I'm Elise Crawford, 35 years old, ER nurse at Providence Portland Medical Center, and the woman stupid enough to think her husband's sudden interest in romantic gestures meant he'd finally evolved past the emotional depth of a parking meter. Spoiler alert, he hadn't. He'd just found someone younger to impress with my money. November 8th started like any other Friday. I got home from a brutal 12-hour shift smelling like hospital disinfectant and broken dreams, kicked off my Crocs, and did what I always do. Checked our joint credit card statement. See, I'm the financially responsible one in this marriage. Colby Marshall, my husband of 9 years, has the budgeting skills of a toddler in a candy store. So I handle the bills, track expenses, make sure we're not hemorrhaging money on his ridiculous protein shake subscriptions. That's when I saw it. Tiffany & Co. $890. My heart actually fluttered, like legitimate butterfly and stomach romance novel heroine fluttered. Our 10th anniversary was coming up in December, and Colby had never bought me anything from Tiffany. The man once got me a Costco gift basket for Valentine's Day. A Costco gift basket. With mixed nuts and summer sausage. But this was growth. Character development. I actually got teary-eyed standing in our kitchen, still wearing my scrubs, thinking my husband had finally figured out how to be romantic. Then I kept scrolling. Sephora. $340. Nordstrom. $1,250. Okay, so he was going all out. Maybe he felt guilty about working so much lately. He'd been traveling to Vancouver for regional meetings every other week. Corporate consultant life, right? I figured he was making up for lost time. I went to bed that night actually excited about our anniversary. Imagined him getting down on one knee, re-proposing with that Tiffany necklace, telling me he'd been taking me for granted. The whole Hallmark Channel fantasy. 3 days later, November 11th, a Monday I'll never forget, I checked the statement again because I'm obsessive like that. New charges. Bliss Spa Vancouver, $620. Le Pigeon Restaurant, $380. My brain short-circuited. Le Pigeon is our place. The fancy Frenchish spot in Portland's East Burnside where Colby proposed 9 years ago. We go there for every major milestone. It's expensive, intimate, perfect. Except I was working a double shift on November 10th. I literally spent that entire Sunday night in the ER dealing with a drunk driver collision victim and a guy who'd superglued his hand to his own forehead on a dare. I sat down at our kitchen table, the one we'd bought together at IKEA, the one where we'd eaten 1,000 meals, and felt my stomach drop into my knockoff Ugg slippers. He wasn't buying these things for me. The nurse in me went into triage mode. No crying, no hysterics, just cold, calculated information gathering. I called Le Pigeon, putting on my sweetest corporate assistant voice. Hi, this is Sarah from Marshall Consulting. Mr. Colby Marshall thinks he may have left something at your restaurant last Sunday night? The hostess was immediately helpful. Oh, yes. Table for 2, right? The blonde woman left her scarf. We have it at the front desk if she wants to pick it up. Blonde. I'm a redhead. Natural, too. The kind of copper penny red that people either love or hate. No in-between. Perfect. Thank you so much, I chirped, then hung up and stared at the wall for approximately 17 minutes. Here's the thing about being an ER nurse. You learn to compartmentalize. Someone comes in with their arm hanging by a thread. You don't scream and run away. You assess, prioritize, act. That's exactly what I did. I gave myself 48 hours to feel everything. The rage, the humiliation, the absolute soul-crushing betrayal. I ugly cried in the staff bathroom at work. I ate an entire pint of Ben & Jerry's in my car. I listened to sad Adele songs like a basic suburban cliché. Then I got to work. November 18th. Another purchase. Macy's. $540. This time I called Macy's customer service. Hi, I'm Elise Marshall, and my husband Colby just made a purchase, but I need to verify the delivery address. We're trying to track a package. Of course. Let me pull that up. Shows here it's being delivered to 402 Pearl District Lofts, Portland. Apartment 402. Pearl District. We live in a house in Sellwood, Southeast Portland. Craftsman style, 3 bedrooms, my name on the deed because I'd bought it before we got married. I Googled the Pearl District Lofts. Sleek, modern, expensive. Exactly the kind of place young professionals with more Instagram followers than sense would live. Then I found her. LinkedIn is a beautiful thing when you're hunting down your husband's mistress. Searched Pearl District Lofts residence with Marshall Consulting, Colby's company, and boom, Lila Brennan, 29 years old. Social media manager at Marshall Consulting. Blonde. Pretty in that manufactured influencer way. All contoured cheekbones and strategic lighting. Her LinkedIn showed she'd started at the company 8 months ago. 8 months. I literally watched her start date and our credit card charges align like some horrible constellation. But here's where I surprised myself. I didn't cancel the cards. Didn't confront Colby. Didn't do anything that would tip him off. Instead, I opened a separate bank account he didn't know about. Transferred my portion of our savings, the money I'd been putting away from my nursing shifts, into it. Then I called Patricia Huang, the toughest divorce attorney in Portland, according to 3 different nurse friends who'd been through this exact situation. I need a consultation, I told her. And I need it to be invisible until I'm ready. Patricia laughed. Actually laughed. Honey, you're going to be my favorite client this year. The next 3 weeks were an Oscar-worthy performance. I should have gotten a SAG card for the acting I did between November 18th and December 20th. Every morning, I woke up next to Colby and smiled, made him coffee, asked about his day, laughed at his mediocre jokes about office politics. Meanwhile, I was screenshotting every single credit card transaction, forwarding emails to my personal account, and meeting with Patricia during my lunch breaks. Document everything, Patricia told me on November 21st, sitting across from me at a Starbucks 3 miles from the hospital. She was 50-something, sharp as a scalpel, with the kind of no-nonsense energy I'd normally reserve for coding patients. Bank statements, texts, emails, photos. Oregon's a no-fault divorce state, but if he's been using marital funds for his little romance, that's financial misconduct. We can nail him. I loved her immediately. Thanksgiving was particularly delicious, and I'm not talking about the turkey. Colby's mother, Diane, invited us to her place in Lake Oswego, one of those sprawling McMansions where every surface screams, "I have money, and you should know it." Diane Marshall is exactly what you'd expect from a woman who names her son Colby. Blonde highlights that cost more than my car payment, athleisure wear from Lululemon, and the personality of someone who's never been told no. We arrived on Thursday, November 28th, around 2 in the afternoon. Diane answered the door in a cream cashmere sweater that probably cost $600. "Elise, darling." She air-kissed both my cheeks like we were in a French film. "You look tired. Are you getting enough sleep?" Translation: "You look like garbage and I'm judging you." 12-hour shifts will do that, I said sweetly. But somebody's got to save lives while everyone else is binge-watching Netflix. Diane's smile tightened. She's never quite forgiven me for having a job that actually matters. Colby's brother Royce was already there with his wife Mabel and their 12-year-old daughter Cora. Royce is basically Colby, but with less hair and more bitterness about being the less successful brother. Mabel teaches middle school English and has the exhausted energy of someone who's given up on expecting emotional support from her spouse. We settled into the living room, all beige furniture and abstract art that looked like someone spilled paint and called it profound. And Diane started her annual Thanksgiving interrogation. "So, Colby," she began, pouring herself a glass of wine that was definitely not her first. "How's work? Still traveling to Vancouver so much?" "Yeah, Mom. Big project wrapping up in December." Colby was so smooth, so comfortable lying. "Regional expansion stuff. Boring corporate nonsense." I sipped my wine and said nothing. Just smiled like the supportive wife. "Must be hard on Elise," Mabel chimed in, shooting me a sympathetic look. "Being home alone so much." "Oh, I keep busy," I said brightly. "Work keeps me occupied, and I've been doing some financial planning lately. Really digging into our accounts. making sure everything's organized for the new year. Colby's hand tightened around his beer bottle. Just slightly, but I noticed. That's wonderful, dear, Diane said, completely missing the subtext. Financial responsibility is so important in marriage. You have no idea, Diane. Dinner was the usual performance. Diane dominated conversation, talking about her book club and her Pilates instructor and her upcoming trip to Scottsdale. Royce made passive-aggressive comments about Colby's salary. Mabel tried to keep Cora entertained while simultaneously looking like she wanted to dive headfirst into the mashed potatoes. And Colby? Colby checked his phone approximately 14 times during dinner. I counted. Each time, he'd angle the screen away from me. Subtle. Practiced. The moves of a man who'd been doing this for months. "Everything okay, honey?" I asked after the 7th check, my voice dripping with concern. "Just work stuff," he said quickly. "Client emails. On Thanksgiving? You know how it is." I did know. I knew exactly who he was texting. Because I'd already installed a tracking app on our shared phone plan 3 days earlier. Legal? Questionable. Effective? Absolutely. Lila had sent him 17 messages during dinner, including one that said, "Missing you. Can't wait for Vancouver next week." Vancouver, again. After dinner, while Diane was showing off her renovated kitchen to Mabel, I cornered Colby by the dessert table. "So, Vancouver again next week?" I asked casually, cutting myself a slice of pumpkin pie. He looked startled. "What? You mentioned it earlier. Another trip?" "Oh, yeah. Quick one. Just Monday through Wednesday." "Which week?" "December 2nd through 4th. I made a mental note. Patricia would love that. "Well, maybe I'll plan something fun for myself," I said, taking a bite of pie. "Girls' night or something?" "That's great, babe. You should." The relief on his face was almost funny. He actually thought I was buying this. That I was the oblivious wife too busy with work to notice her husband was building an entire second life. Men are truly fascinating creatures. They think because we don't immediately scream and throw dishes, we don't know what's happening. Like we're all just sitting around waiting for them to confess instead of quietly building legal cases that'll destroy them. And timing. Timing is everything. We drove home that night, Colby humming along to whatever garbage was on the radio, completely relaxed. Meanwhile, I was mentally cataloging everything I'd need for phase 2 of my plan. December arrived with typical Portland rain, gray, relentless, miserable. Perfect weather for plotting revenge. Colby's Vancouver trip happened exactly as scheduled, December 2nd through 4th. He kissed me goodbye Monday morning, told me he'd miss me, promised to bring back some Canadian candy I liked. I tracked his location the entire time. He spent 2 nights at the Fairmont Pacific Rim. $1,700 for 3 nights. Our credit card, naturally. But here's the beautiful part. I didn't say anything. Didn't cry. Didn't rage. Just screenshotted the hotel charges and forwarded them to Patricia with a note, adding to the evidence pile. When Colby came home Wednesday night, I greeted him with a smile and homemade lasagna. We ate dinner together. He told me about his meetings. I asked follow-up questions, played the role perfectly. "You're the best, Elle," he said, squeezing my hand across the table. "I'm lucky to have you." I squeezed back. "You have no idea." December 6th, another purchase. Victoria's Secret, $280. I literally laughed out loud when I saw it. Victoria's Secret. How original. How painfully cliché. I bet he bought her the matching set in whatever color looks good on Instagram. By December 15th, I had everything I needed. Bank statements going back 8 months, screenshots of locations, receipts from romantic restaurants, hotel confirmations, a paper trail so detailed it could have been used as evidence in a murder trial. Patricia called it impressively thorough. I called it survival. The weeks leading up to Christmas were perfectly choreographed normalcy. I worked my shifts. Colby went to the office. We decorated the tree together, watched holiday movies. He seemed lighter somehow, probably relieved that I hadn't noticed his double life. Christmas was in 5 days, and our entire family would be here. It was going to be a holiday nobody would ever forget. December 21st, Saturday morning. I was in the middle of my second cup of coffee when my phone buzzed with an email that changed everything. Subject line: Ari, Marshall Consulting Employee Directory Request. I'd sent a formal request to the HR department 3 days earlier, claiming I needed to send Colby's team holiday cards and wanted to make sure I had everyone's correct mailing addresses. Corporate America loves that kind of wholesome nonsense. They sent me the entire directory, including Lila Brennan's employee file. Start date: March 4th, 2024. Position: Social Media Manager. Reporting to Colby Marshall. She reported directly to him. He was her boss. I sat there staring at my laptop screen, and something clicked. This wasn't just an affair. This was a power dynamic nightmare. He was her supervisor. The company had policies about this. Strict policies. I'd seen the employee handbook when Colby first got hired 5 years ago. Relationships between supervisors and subordinates had to be disclosed to HR immediately. They hadn't disclosed anything. I forwarded the email to Patricia with a message. Does this change anything legally? She called me 6 minutes later. Elise, this is gold. Her voice had that edge lawyers get when they smell blood in the water. If he's been using his position to facilitate this relationship, and they haven't disclosed it, that's a major ethics violation. The company could terminate him for cause. No severance. Nothing. Can we use that? Honey, we're absolutely using that. Keep digging. So I dug. Spent the entire weekend while Colby was at his company's holiday party. Yes, seriously. He went to a party with Lila while I stayed home organizing evidence of his infidelity, going through his laptop. He'd left it on the dining room table. Password was our wedding date. Original. His email was a treasure trove. Months of correspondence with Lila. Some professional. Most definitely not. My personal favorite was from October 15th. Can't stop thinking about Vancouver last weekend. You're incredible. See, Vancouver. The place he'd told me he was meeting with regional directors. I downloaded everything onto a flash drive, organized it by date, created a beautiful little folder structure that would have made a paralegal weep with joy. But the real jackpot came on December 22nd, Sunday afternoon. I was Christmas shopping, actually meeting Patricia at her office in downtown Portland, when I got a notification from our joint bank account. Colby had transferred $5,000 to his personal checking account, the one I didn't have access to. $5,000 from our savings. I called Patricia immediately. He just moved $5,000, our money. Screenshot it. That's dissipation of marital assets. We can argue he was preparing to leave or hiding money. Either way, it helps us. What do you think he's doing with it? Honestly? Probably planning to help her with something. First month's rent on a new place together, maybe. Christmas presents. Who knows? Doesn't matter. What matters is he's moving joint funds without your knowledge right before we file. I screenshotted everything. Then I did something potentially petty but absolutely satisfying. I transferred $15,000 from our savings into my personal account, the one I'd opened in November. The account he didn't know existed. If he checked, he'd see the balance drop. But by then, it'd be too late. Monday, December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas. Colby came home from work early, around 4 in the afternoon, carrying bags from Macy's and looking pleased with himself. Got some last-minute stuff for Christmas? He said, kissing my cheek. You're gonna love what I got you. I'm sure I will, I said, stirring the soup I'd made for dinner. Everyone's still coming for Christmas, right? Yep. Mom, Royce, Mabel, and Cora. My mom's bringing her famous green bean casserole, the one she makes with canned soup and fried onions. Truly a culinary masterpiece. Perfect, I said. I'm making prime rib. You're the best, Elle. I smiled, added more salt to the soup, imagined adding other things, but settled for salt. That night, while Colby was in the shower, I wrapped my present for him. Took me 2 hours to organize everything perfectly. I'd bought a beautiful gift box from Paper Source, red with gold trim, very festive, and carefully arranged everything inside. Layer 1, printed bank statements with every suspicious charge highlighted in yellow. Tiffany, Sephora, Nordstrom, the Spa, Le Pigeon, Victoria's Secret, the Fairmont Pacific Rim. organized chronologically. Layer 2, printed emails between him and Lila. The professional ones on top, progressively getting more inappropriate as you went deeper, like a timeline of moral decay. Layer 3, screenshots from the tracking app showing his location history. Vancouver hotels, Lila's apartment building, restaurants across Portland. Layer 4, a printed copy of Marshall Consulting's ethics policy, with the section about supervisor-subordinate relationships highlighted in pink. Layer 5, my favorite touch, a formal letter on my personal letterhead. Dear Colby, thank you for 9 years of marriage. While I appreciate the memories, I no longer require your services as a husband. Please consider this your formal notification that divorce proceedings will begin January 2, 2025. Your attorney will receive paperwork shortly. You have until January 5th to remove your belongings from my house. See attached deed showing sole ownership. I've also taken the liberty of forwarding copies of your emails and our company's ethics policy to Human Resources at Marshall Consulting. I'm sure they'll be fascinated by your leadership style. Merry Christmas. Best regards, Elise Crawford, RN, soon to be back to my maiden name. I wrapped it carefully, added a gorgeous velvet bow, placed it under our Christmas tree next to all the other presents. It looked perfect. Tuesday, December 24th, Christmas Eve. I worked a half shift at the hospital, came home around 2 in the afternoon. Colby was in the living room watching football, completely relaxed. Hey, babe, he called out. How was work? Saved 3 lives and diagnosed 2 idiots who thought chest pain during a heart attack was just indigestion. Standard Tuesday. He laughed. Didn't even look up from the TV. I went to our bedroom and pulled out the outfit I'd bought for tomorrow. Red dress from Nordstrom. Ironically purchased on the same card he'd been using for Lila. Designer label. Fit me perfectly. Cost $400. Worth every penny for the look on his face tomorrow. That evening, Colby's family started arriving. Diane showed up first around 6, carrying her famous green bean casserole and enough passive-aggressive energy to power downtown Portland. Elise, you look well, she said, which coming from Diane meant, you look acceptable, but I have notes. Thanks, Diane. Love the Botox. Very subtle. Her smile froze. Royce, Mabel, and Cora arrived 30 minutes later. Cora immediately went for the cookies I'd left out, because 12-year-olds have their priorities straight. Mabel looked exhausted, as usual. Royce looked like he'd rather be literally anywhere else. We did the whole Christmas Eve thing. Watched a movie. Ate too much food. Diane drank too much wine and told stories about when Colby was a child that nobody asked for. Royce made sarcastic comments about his childhood trauma. Mabel refereed. Standard family holiday chaos. Around 10, everyone headed to the guest rooms. We'd converted our 3-bedroom house into a Holiday Inn. Diane in the main guest room. Royce and his family squeezed into the smaller one with an air mattress for Cora. Colby and I went to bed. He fell asleep immediately, snoring like a man without a care in the world. I lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about tomorrow. Christmas Day. The day everything would detonate. I'd planned it perfectly. Timed it down to the minute. Christmas morning, everyone would be together. The whole family gathered around the tree. Maximum audience. Maximum impact. And that beautifully wrapped box with the red velvet bow was waiting under the tree like a ticking time bomb disguised as holiday cheer. I smiled in the dark. Tomorrow was going to be legendary. Christmas morning, December 25th, 2024. The day I turned holiday cheer into a weapon of mass destruction. I woke up at 6:30, made coffee, and put on my $400 red dress. Did my makeup like I was going to a wedding. Curled my hair. The whole production. If you're going to burn someone's life down, you might as well look incredible doing it. By 8, everyone was awake. Diane emerged from the guest room in a cream silk robe that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. Royce shuffled out looking like he'd rather be in a coma. Mabel had that 1,000-yard stare of a woman who'd stopped expecting joy from family gatherings years ago. Cora bounced around excited about presents, because children are still capable of genuine emotion. Colby came downstairs looking pleased with himself, wearing the expensive sweater I'd bought him last Christmas. The irony was almost poetic. "Merry Christmas, everyone," Diane announced, like she was hosting a talk show. "Should we do presents before or after breakfast?" "Before," Cora said immediately. "Presents it is," I said, smiling. "Everyone grab coffee. I'll get the cinnamon rolls from the oven." I'd made them from scratch, because even when you're planning to detonate someone's entire existence, you still need carbs. We gathered in the living room. The tree looked perfect. White lights, gold ornaments, that expensive artificial snow Diane had insisted on, all very Pinterest-worthy. And there, nestled among the sweaters and gift cards and Amazon purchases, was my masterpiece. Red box, gold bow, innocent as a lamb. "Who wants to go first?" Diane asked. "Actually," Colby said, standing up with a shopping bag from his car run, "I want to give Elise her present first, in front of everyone." My heart rate didn't even change. 9 years of ER nursing teaches you to stay calm during disasters. "How sweet," I said. He handed me the bag. I pulled out the tissue paper. Inside was a scarf. Not even a nice scarf. A basic, generic, clearly bought at Macy's 2 days ago in a panic scarf. Gray. Polyester blend. The kind of thing you grab when you realize you forgot your wife's present. "It's beautiful," I lied, holding it up. "Thank you, honey." Diane clapped. Mabel looked suspicious. Royce was already on his phone. "Your turn," I said, standing up. I walked to the tree and picked up the red box. Handed it to Colby. "I put a lot of thought into this one." He grinned. Took the box, shook it slightly. "Feels heavy. What did you get me?" "Open it and see." The room went quiet in that way families do when someone's opening a gift. Everyone watching. Waiting. Colby untied the bow, lifted the lid. I watched his face change in real time. Confusion. Recognition. Horror. He pulled out the first layer of papers. The highlighted bank statements. Saw the charges. Tiffany. Sephora. The hotel. "What is this?" His voice cracked. "Keep going," I said pleasantly. "There's more." He dug deeper, found the emails, the ones between him and Lila. His hands started shaking. Diane leaned forward. "Colby? What's wrong?" "Nothing, Mom. It's everything, actually," I interrupted. I turned to Diane, Royce, and Mabel, who were all staring now. "Since we're all family here, I thought this was the perfect time to share some news. Colby's been having an affair with his employee for the past 8 months. Her name is Lila Brennan. She's 29, blonde, works in social media, and reports directly to him." The silence was magnificent. Cora looked up from her phone. "Wait, what?" "Elise. I can explain," Colby started. "Oh, you don't need to explain," I said, my voice sharp as a scalpel. "The bank statements explain everything. $1,500 in jewelry and clothes. $2,000 on hotels and restaurants, all on our joint credit card. While I was working double shifts saving lives, you were using my money to romance a woman young enough to still believe your corporate consultant job is impressive." Diane's face had gone white. "Colby, tell me this isn't true." He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. "There's a letter at the bottom," I continued, looking at him. "But I'll summarize for everyone. I'm divorcing him. He has until January 5th to move out of my house. Yes, my house, my name on the deed, bought before we married. And I've forwarded all of this to the HR department at Marshall Consulting, because apparently having an undisclosed romantic relationship with your direct report violates company ethics policy." "Who knew?" Royce actually laughed. A short, shocked bark of laughter. "Holy language," Mabel said automatically, glancing at Cora. "Elise, please," Colby said, standing up. The papers scattered on the floor around him. "Can we talk about this privately?" "No, we're done talking privately. I spent 6 weeks talking to myself while you were texting Lila during family dinners. Remember Thanksgiving? You checked your phone 14 times. I counted. She sent you 17 messages about missing you while you were eating turkey with your family." Diane stood up, wobbling slightly. She'd already had 2 glasses of wine with breakfast. "This is unacceptable. Colby Marshall, how could you do this to your wife?" "Mom? Don't mom me. You cheated on Elise? After everything she's done for you?" She saved your sorry behind when you nearly got fired 2 years ago for missing that client presentation. I'd actually forgotten about that. Nice bonus detail, Diane. And with an employee? Diane continued, on a roll now. You're her boss. Do you have any idea how that looks? How that reflects on this family? Ah, yes. Diane's priorities. Not, how could you hurt Elise? But, how does this make us look? I want a divorce, I said clearly, cutting through the chaos. The papers are ready. My attorney is Patricia Huang. Your attorney can contact her after the holidays. You'll be hearing from her January 2nd. Until then, you can sleep in the guest room. Your mother can sleep on the couch or go home. I am not sleeping on a couch, Diane said immediately. Then go home, I suggested sweetly. Mabel had her arm around Cora, who was watching this whole thing like it was a Netflix drama. Which, honestly, it kind of was. Aunt Elise? Cora said quietly. Yes, sweetie? That was savage. Language, Mabel said again, but she was smiling. Colby looked like he'd been hit by a truck. Just standing there, papers scattered around his feet, that cheap scarf still in my lap. His whole world crumbling in real time. You planned this, he said finally. You knew. For how long? Since November 11th, I said. The day you took Lila to Le Pigeon, our restaurant. The place you proposed to me. That's when I knew. Everything after that was just documentation. 6 weeks? You've been lying to me for 6 weeks? Interesting word choice, considering you've been lying to me for 8 months. But sure, let's focus on my 6 weeks of strategic planning. Royce was openly grinning now. I like this version of Elise. She's terrifying. Thank you, Royce. Diane grabbed her purse. I need to leave. Colby, we'll talk about this later. Elise, I'm sorry. Truly. You deserved better than this. I know, I said. She left, just walked out. Didn't even take her famous green bean casserole. Royce stood up. We're gonna head out too. Let you guys process. But Elise? Respect. Serious respect. Mabel hugged me on the way out. Whispered, call me if you need anything. Cora waved. Merry Christmas, Aunt Elise. Merry Christmas, sweetie. And then it was just me and Colby, standing in our living room, wrapping paper and divorce evidence scattered on the floor, the Christmas tree lights twinkling cheerfully. What happens now? He asked. You pack, you leave, you figure out your life. I'm keeping the house, most of the savings, and my dignity. You're keeping whatever's left of your career after HR gets done with you. Lila's going to... Lila already knows. I sent her copies too. Last night. She blocked you on everything this morning. Checked before breakfast. His face went gray. Merry Christmas, Colby, I said, picking up my coffee. I'm going to work. ER doesn't close for holidays. Lock the door when you leave. I grabbed my purse, my coat, and walked out. Best Christmas ever. 3 months later, March 15th, 2025. Spring in Portland, which means rain with occasional glimpses of sun, like the universe can't commit to a mood. I'm sitting in my living room, legally and emotionally mine now, drinking coffee and reading the final divorce decree. Signed, sealed, delivered. Colby officially moved out January 4th, 1 day before the deadline. Took his clothes, his golf clubs, his collection of corporate self-help books with titles like Synergize Your Success and The 7 Habits of Mediocre Men. Left behind the expensive coffee maker I'd bought, half the furniture, and absolutely zero dignity. The house feels bigger now. Cleaner. Like when you finally take out garbage that's been sitting too long and suddenly you can breathe again. Marshall Consulting's HR investigation wrapped up in February. Turns out having an undisclosed relationship with your direct report while using company resources for personal romantic getaways is frowned upon in corporate America. Who knew? Colby was terminated. No severance package. Just a polite letter thanking him for his 5 years of service and suggesting he pursue opportunities elsewhere. Translation: don't let the door hit you on the way out. Lila resigned 2 weeks after Christmas. Apparently, being the other woman loses its appeal when everyone at the office knows you're the other woman. She moved to Seattle. Changed her LinkedIn to private. Last I heard through Mabel, who stayed in touch because she's genuinely lovely. Lila's working at a startup and very carefully not dating anyone from work. Learning experiences come in all forms. Colby's living in a one-bedroom apartment in Beaverton with a roommate. At 41 years old. His Instagram, which I occasionally check purely for anthropological research purposes, shows him trying very hard to convince everyone he's living his best life, with gym selfies and motivational quotes about resilience. My favorite was from last week. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself. I commented, sometimes you just have to not cheat on your wife. He blocked me immediately. The divorce settlement was everything Patricia promised. I kept the house, 70% of our savings. Turns out judges don't love it when one spouse uses marital funds for extramarital activities. And my retirement accounts. Colby kept his car, his remaining savings, and a valuable lesson about consequences. Diane called me in February. Apologized again. Said she'd always liked me better than Colby anyway, which seemed harsh but also accurate. We have coffee occasionally. She's joined a book club and stopped drinking wine before noon, so personal growth is happening everywhere. Royce texts me memes about terrible husbands. Mabel invited me to her book club. Cora asks if I can help with her science homework because Uncle Colby was never smart anyway. Kids are brutal. I love it. Work's been good. Actually, work's been great. Turns out not being emotionally drained by a failing marriage gives you significantly more energy for everything else. I picked up extra shifts, got promoted to charge nurse in February. My supervisor said I demonstrated exceptional composure during high-stress situations. If only she knew the high-stress situation was my marriage imploding while I coordinated a multi-week evidence-gathering operation. I've been on exactly 2 dates since the divorce finalized. One was fine. One was aggressively boring. Both reminded me that I'm perfectly content being alone right now. Maybe forever. Maybe not. Turns out you don't need another person to feel complete when you've spent 9 years completing yourself despite someone else's best efforts to diminish you. The house got new paint, soft gray in the living room. The bedroom's now a blue I actually like instead of the beige Colby insisted on because it was neutral. I bought art, real art from local Portland artists, not the mass-produced garbage from HomeGoods. Got plants, started a garden in the backyard. I'm becoming one of those women who has strong opinions about hydrangeas. And honestly, I'm fine with it. Last week, I ran into someone from Marshall Consulting at Whole Foods, Karen from accounting. She recognized me, looked uncomfortable, then said, "I just want you to know, everyone there thought what you did was legendary." Thanks, Karen. Seriously, the Christmas present thing? People still talk about it. You're like a folk hero. I'm not sure folk hero was the goal, but I'll take it. Here's what I learned from this entire disaster. People will always show you who they are. The question is whether you're paying attention. I ignored small signs for months. The phone checking, the work trips, the emotional distance. Told myself I was being paranoid or insecure or overly suspicious. Turns out my gut was right. It usually is. I also learned that revenge doesn't have to be loud or violent or dramatic beyond a single well-timed moment. It can be quiet preparation, documentation, legal strategy, letting someone's own actions speak louder than anything you could say, and timing. Timing is everything. Could I have confronted Colby privately? Absolutely. Would it have been more mature? Probably. But would it have been as satisfying as watching his face crumble in front of his entire family on Christmas morning while wearing a $400 dress purchased with his credit card? Absolutely not. Some people say revenge doesn't solve anything. Those people have never successfully executed a perfectly planned takedown, complete with color-coded evidence folders and dramatic timing. I'm not saying revenge is always the answer. I'm just saying sometimes it's a really, really good answer. These days, I'm focused on myself, my career, my house, my garden, my ridiculously overpriced coffee habit, learning to be happy alone, which turns out is significantly easier than being miserable together. Colby texted me last week. First contact since January. Just 2 words. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. Some apologies come too late. Some bridges burn so thoroughly there's nothing left but ash. And sometimes the best response is simply moving forward without looking back. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not hurt. I'm just done. And you know what? Done feels absolutely perfect.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.